All right, so it looks like we got some breaking news here. So this article headline says Harris has opened up a second path to victory according to the post-polling model. The Democratic nominee could win in the Rust Belt or the Sun Belt and get to the White House, while Donald Trump must win in both geographic regions to triumph. So Kamala Harris has seen this massive surge right now, all in the cross the swing states. And we can look at the numbers in the Sun Belt as well as the Rust Belt. We've been paying most of our attention to the Rust Belt, but quietly there's something really big going on in the Sun Belt. And so this is ultimately why I think Kamala is likely going to win. I'll make a final prediction on the day before the election, but right now the vibes are leaning towards Kamala Harris. The coconut juices are going everywhere. But basically, I'm not saying that she's going to win because she's going to destroy Trump anywhere, but rather, it's just going to end up being that she has too many paths to victory. Not only does she have a path now where she could either win the Rust Belt in its entirety or the Sun Belt in its entirety and win none of the other group, but the Sun Belt plus North Carolina, by the way. She could also win some combination, like maybe you lose Pennsylvania, but you're supplementing that with like Arizona and Georgia, for example, right? There's a bunch of different combinations. So it says a lot has changed in the presidential race over the last 3 weeks, according to the Washington Post polling average. Since President Joe Biden exited the presidential race, the race has effectively reversed itself. Relative to the day Biden dropped out, Harris has gained 2 percentage points nationally, and as of Sunday, leads in our national polling average. In swing states, she has gained an average of 2.1 points since June 21st, and leads in 2 of 7 of them. By the way, the Washington Post polling aggregator, I don't know why, but it's super conservative. Like the 538 one has her winning in basically all of them. I think the only one she's losing in at this point is like NC and Nevada. So just keep that in mind as well. Talks about how she's taking the lead in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and substantially closed the gap in Michigan. But again, she's leading in all of those in the 538 aggregator. And so it says, our modeling shows that Harris has 2 paths to possible success: the Rust Belt states of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, and the Sun Belt states of Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, as well as North Carolina. She could win in either region and still claim the White House. Meanwhile, Trump must win both the Rust Belt and the Sun Belt to triumph. And I think that this is the big problem here, is that Trump has to win both in order to win the election. Kamala only needs to win one. And so that's the issue here, is that there's too many pathways to victory. And so we can kind of look at this map here as well. But if you kind of look at this map here, if you were to lose, let's say you lost every single one of these, states here in the Sun Belt plus North Carolina, what would end up happening is you would still win 270 to 268, right? You'd win like a really slim sort of razor-thin margin here of a victory. But you could also win, and this could definitely be possible in terms of sweeping the Rust Belt states. It's definitely possible. It's unlikely you'll lose all the other states, but hypothetically, if we have all the Rust Belt states, you get swept, but you're able to win all of these NC plus the Sun Belt, you still win the election. And there's also a really big benefit to the Sun Belt states that I'm also going to mention in a second here that you really want to hear. But you can also win with 0. You could get swept in the Rust Belt. This was not considered an option for Hillary Clinton, I think, in the way the race was going exactly. She got smashed in Georgia, so that wasn't an option. I think NC was in play. But you would need Georgia to supplement it. North Carolina is massive because it has 16 electoral votes, which is huge. It's more than Michigan or Wisconsin alone, and it matches Georgia. So NC and Georgia is a really massive combo. And so the thing here is you have this huge possible victory beans. And I think, even if we try kind of flipping Nevada here, if you flip Nevada here to tie, but I think you would end up losing the election based on, whatever the civics of that is. So Nevada is important. But you have 2 paths to victory, and then you can also kind of swip and swap. Like, let's say you lose NC, but you win Michigan and Wisconsin. You're still able to win the. Or if you lose NC and then you still win, Michigan and Wisconsin, you're still able to win. You still have these paths to victory. This would be another tie. I guess there's a bunch of tie possibilities here, but you can supplement Pennsylvania. Let's say you just lose Pennsylvania, you could supplement Pennsylvania here still. By just winning GA and AZ, basically, you can still do this. So Kamala Harris is likely going to win, not because there's some massive margin in any single state, but rather that there's just too many possibilities to win, because you could either win with the Sun Belt plus NC or with just the Rust Belt alone, or you could win with some wombo combo of the two, right? So you have 2 pathways to victory here, which Trump doesn't have. Trump only has 1. Trump has to win all of it. Trump has to win all of the states in order to win, right? So that's the big problem here. And so when we take a look at these poll numbers, we can take a look and kind of see what's going on. So when we take a look at these polls here, this is really big news because Georgia, if we look at the aggregate in Georgia here, right now, Kamala Harris has officially taken the lead in the aggregator for 538. If you guys can, manage to see this here. So Harris is now plus 0.2 on August 15th. So she has officially taken the lead. She had not taken the lead just yet. So she is up by 0.2 points with Kennedy in the race. Now, we talked about this in the video yesterday, right, about how the big thing that's fueling the victory right now for Kamala Harris with this big flip is these so-called double haters, right? These so-called double haters are flipping for Kamala in massive numbers. So this article says the new Monmouth University poll found the number of double haters, voters who dislike both candidates, has been cut in half since Harris joined the race. The poll found 8% of voters do not have favorable views of either Harris or Trump, while 17% said they did not have favorable views of either Biden or Trump. And then it says a poll in June found that 54% of the double haters who had unfavorable views of Biden and Trump would not support either candidate, 28% for Biden, 19% for Trump. It says, however, the new poll found that Harris now has 53% of the vote among the double haters, and Trump has 11%, and then 35% are no. And so what's scary for Trump is 35% are still going with nobody. I can almost guarantee that there's going to be more gains in this group for Kamala Harris. So she's not sort of balls deep fully yet, where she's kind of like balls out, where it's like you have everything. There's still some kind of juices to suck out of this double hater category, which is why I think she's going to continue to grow and why she has been. But there's something really fascinating going on here. So if we flip-flop this, right, Kennedy here is getting 3.5. Let's do a quick flip to the Biden race. And you can see Kennedy is getting a significantly massive amount. So he's at 7.3% in this poll, right? In this aggregate, not in one poll. And so what you can see is a lot of what's happening is the reason why Biden was down so much by 6 points was largely because a bunch of people who would have voted for a Democrat was actually voting for Kennedy. Because we could see it goes from 7.3 where he's down 6, and it ends up jumping where now you have like almost like a 4-point decrease for Kennedy, and Harris goes up by, she's now up, she went up by 6 points basically, right? So there's some more going on there. She might be pulling a little bit from Trump, and there's going to be double haters who didn't support Kennedy either. But what you can see is maybe because of the name recognition for Democrats with Kennedy, I don't know. But I was honestly really confused by this, the Sunbelt states. I thought they were lost, and they honestly didn't make sense to me because I was like, how is it possible that you win in 2020 and then Biden is losing the race? He's losing by like 6 points. I didn't understand it. The reason is just because a lot of the votes were going to Kennedy, who were just double haters, and then there were other double haters outstanding as well. So I think the Sun Belt is actually really solid. We can also take a look at Arizona, for example. We can see also she has taken the lead in Arizona as well. So she's up now by 0.9 points. So almost a full point in the aggregate. So she's leading. There's also some impact. We can see some Kennedy impact in this race as well, where he was at 7.3. Biden was down 5.5 points. And then now he's down to 5.2. And she's up by 0.9. That's some of it is Kennedy. And then others just pulling from double haters as well. And maybe she's pulling some of, she was actually pulling some of the double haters who were trending towards Trump as well. So that's pretty interesting as well. But we see AZ, Nevada is also another state where it seems to be Nevada's kind of the weird holdout state, honestly, which is kind of bizarre. I don't know if polling is bad here, but she's actually going down for some reason. But even right now, she was leading. But Nevada likely is going to go blue. I think the polls are just kind of acting weird right now. They're kind of acting kind of funky. And then what we have here also, if we want to look at North Carolina, she's actually also, in the situation she's in with North Carolina, she's also getting really, really close. She's only down by 0.5 now in North Carolina. And I did do some research into North Carolina, into demography changes, because I was like, okay, we lost it in 2020, so it's probably not likely to be winning it in 2024. But one big thing that's happening is there's large demography changes that are happening. I think the last year they added like the third most out of any state in the nation. There's a lot of net migration into the country, or into the state. And I think they're trending towards the blue areas. So I think there's demography changes happening where there's a movement inwards into North Carolina of Democrats, a hefty one, to the point where they're ranking upward. They're ranking into the upper echelons of like 1, 2, 3 kind of area. So North Carolina actually has a really good chance, and there was a very, very large swing between 2016 and 2020, especially if you kind of calculate that Gary Johnson, I think, took like about 3% in 2016. So it might have been an even larger victory for Hillary that was kind of muted by that, although we're not 100% sure. But so she's very close now in North Carolina. She's eking in, and it's going to continue to rise, right? The numbers have already gone down by 0.5 in just 4 days, right? There's from 4 days have gone down 0.5 to now just 0.5. So this is pretty fascinating. And then the other really big benefit of these states that makes me like the Sun Belt more, if we check back to what happened in 2020, in terms of these numbers, Biden was up 1.2, and he won Georgia by about maybe 0.2 or 0.4 points. So the problem with the MIWI Penn states, the Rust Belt states, MIWI Penn, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, is like I just, string joined almost like in Python for like, the initials. But basically, Biden's up 1.2 in the aggregate here, and Biden ends up winning by about 0.4 or something like that, 0.4, 0.2. So it's very, very close, super close. Arizona also, right? Arizona, Biden's up by 2.6. He ends up winning by something similar, right? So it's off by about 2 points. The thing about the MIWI Penn states is, right, like you look at Michigan, he was up like 7.9 points. He won by 2.5. That's off by about 5. You have, Wisconsin, for example, also disgusting, right? 8.4, he wins by less than 1 point, so it's off by like 7 points. Pennsylvania, Biden's up 4.7, and he wins by about 1. So this actually ended up being like the most accurate. He's only off by like 3 and some change. So you don't need that large of like a polling error. And I think in Georgia, Biden actually outperformed his numbers. So Trump did an outperformance effect by about almost 2 points, but Biden was able to still win because of his own outperformance of almost a full point. So what we can see here is my sort of favoring towards these Sunbelt states that's exciting is we don't have to worry too much about that. Now, again, there's a question as to whether or not the polling error is going to happen again in 2024. It may not. Maybe Kamala doesn't have that issue. It's totally possible. There also there seems to be a lot of vibes in favor of Kamala where it might not just be a basement strategy election in 2024 where now it's like anti-Biden and Trump. There seems to be some energy behind Kamala as well. So this is a really, really big benefit of the Sun Belt is that the polling errors don't need to be massive. Like the polling error only is like one or 2 points. Whereas right now, for Kamala's lead in the Rust Belt right now, if we were to kind of go with the stare decisis that exists, and I think it was similar in 2016 as well, she's only up 2.9 in Michigan. But she won by 2.5, but the polls were off by about 5 points. Now, again, I don't know if that's going to happen again, but just sort of in terms of comfortability, this makes me a lot more uncomfortable. Pennsylvania, she's up 2.1. She was up 4.7 and barely won, right? So technically, with those polling errors, she's kind of losing these states. But she's much closer with, the other states in terms of the polling errors, right? So super fascinating. And so this gives Kamala 2 ways to win. And this is ultimately, I think, why Kamala Harris is going to win the election is not because she's going to blow anybody out in states, but she just has more paths to victory. And I'm curious to know what you guys think. Let me know down below in the comment section which one you prefer. Would you prefer a map? If you had only 2 choices, you don't have any other choices, which map would you prefer here? Would you prefer a map in which this happens where, you take, the Rust Belt goes full red, but then you win the election with all the Sun Belts, or the reverse, where you lose all of the Sun Belt states, but you win by solely just winning by sweeping the Rust Belt states? I do have a favoring towards the Sun Belt states more so. They seem to be trending more in the Democratic direction where the Rust Belt seems to be going in the opposite direction. So it might actually be that in the long run, the Sun Belt plus NC is like the better route. But if you only had these 2 options, which one would you pick? No other options, so let me know down below in the comment section. But I think the Sun Belt plus NC has a really high possibility for a long run sort of benefit as opposed to just a short run, like in economics or short run and long run. And it seems like the Rust Belt is kind of going away from being Democratic, whereas these states are obviously moving towards it, right? But yeah, super fascinating. So Trump has to win both. So this is looking really good for Kamala because she has just a lot of pathways and she can do wombo combos, right? She can choose multiple things. You can get a slice of pizza at a buffet or whatever. They have a slice of pizza and maybe some sushi. I hope you're not going to a buffet like that. That sounds disgusting. But you know what I mean? You can just pick kind of combos or whatever. Maybe you get like, I don't know, some kind of combo of stuff. So you swap Pennsylvania for 2 of these states, etc., etc. But really cool news. So Kamala Harris looking like in a really good position. And officially, we have this sort of second path to victory opening up, which is putting her in a really, really good position to win.